Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the first episode ever of Cantrip Chronicles, where we're going to get a little crazy with the... Did I turn everything off? I did turn everything off. It's okay. It's the first one ever. It's okay. It's okay. We can fix it all in post.
Never happened.
We'll just start it all over again.
We could just start it again if you really want to.
We could do it all over again, but what would be the magic of that? Welcome to Cantrip Chronicles, the show where we dive into the most baffling mysteries of the fantasy worlds. We'll uncover the secrets no wizard wants to know and prove once and for all that sometimes the real magic is just bad decision making. Hello and welcome, everyone. I am DM Dave of Careful Cantrip, and I'm joined by a few of my lovely co-hosts this evening. First, CEO Rayna Rai.
Oh, hello. Welcome, everyone. I'm Rayna, and my favorite color is blue, and I'm really excited to be here. What are we talking?
You're not very good at this opening the podcast thing. You could have just said hi. You know, that's
hello.
We could have just ended it there.
We'll look back at this in 6 months when Rayna hasn't improved at all, and we'll remember this.
Nate, I haven't announced that you're here yet. If for people that can't see, they're just going to be like, wow, Dave's voice changed all of a sudden. Oh my God, Peter, now you fucked it all up as well.
Don't take my spotlight.
We also have the hype train conductor himself, the big Nate DOWG. Welcome in, Nate.
Hey guys, I realize I'm the only one with a cat here. Do you guys not bring cats?
No.
Yeah,
I got 2 dogs.
We tried to. I'm sorry, Nate. That was a fumble on our side. It was. I told everyone pod cats. They just assumed that I said it wrong. So you were the only one. You are employee of the month as well. Congratulations.
Okay. All right, we're doing this right then. Okay, cool. Hey, I'm here. This is my cat Camille. She's 8 years old and she's cute and she likes to chase things. We recently got her a fish tank. She's been watching that a lot. That's pretty cool. Happy to be here on Podcasts.
Well done. And last but not least, the arcane master himself, the expert of all things expertise. Peter, welcome in, my friend.
Hello, welcome. I'm the true Mad Mage. Hi, I don't know. Hi, I'm Peter, everyone. Thank you for having me here.
Well, it was a decent segue, Peter, into tonight's epic story. We're diving into the stories of mad wizards of D&D, figures of immense power, genius, and obsession, whose ambition carried them into the realm of brilliance and madness. Now, magic is the ultimate tool for reshaping reality. You can build kingdoms with it, unravel mysteries, and unlock unimaginable power. But in the world of Dungeons and Dragons, there's always a price. And for those who push magic to its limits, the cost is often their very sanity. So tonight, we're going to dive into a couple examples of some of the mad mages or mad lads that have taken it a step too far. Guys, what do you think of magic and madness? Do you think this is just magic causes the madness? Do you think it's a matter of individuals who just are too ambitious behind things? What are your thoughts on all this?
I think it's just fun, right? I think it's from a writing standpoint, when you give someone, miraculous power, you have to you need a yin for the yang. So if you're going to have the young knight rise up and defeat a foe, then what better foe than the one who was once the proud and noble mage and maybe now has fallen, right? So yeah, I think it's the classic writing trope, right?
Yeah. I mean, literary, I can definitely see that. But what about in real life? Like real life magic, Nate? Because we all know magic is real. They just hide it away from us mere mortals.
Yes,
right.
This is a conspiracy podcast.
We did say we were gonna unlock mysteries. Okay,
folks,
we're going to be the Alex Joneses of the D&D world.
No, we're not.
Back in 1972, the gnomes.
Oh, someone talk about our crypto coin now.
No, they're taking all of our money.
Oh God.
They're taking all of our gems. I think I think the thirst for power and the search for power drives them mad, right? This like, with a few of the people we're going to talk about today, like they've wanted to extend their life, because they want to know more, they want to be more powerful, and that drives them mad at the end of the day.
Who do you think is the prime example of magic gone mad? Doesn't have to be in D&D, just in general.
Oh,
Magic gone mad.
prime example.
I'd throw back to like probably like Sauron, right?
Okay.
Classic Tolkien, the white wizard
Classic.
that falls to the draw of fear and power.
Mhm.
Also
Yeah.
controversial, Anakin Skywalker.
Ooh,
See, I was going to say
Interesting.
Palpatine as well.
Yeah, right?
Okay.
I could see it. Yeah.
Or even you go
Space
back
wizards. Yeah.
What is
Yep.
it? Darth Bane? No,
Darth
Maybe
Bane.
You can go way back.
it's not
Who
not
is
the
Darth
Batman
Bane?
Bane.
Star Wars nerds
No.
out
I was about to say.
But
I was born in
yeah.
darkness. See,
Uh,
I always thought the pivotal moment of madness and magic combined, stepping away from the D&D and literary world a little bit, not too far away from it, but with Scarlet Witch. Scarlet Witch to me
yeah.
during the reign, there was a series from Marvel called House of M, and she literally broke all of reality. And it's an interesting case study when it comes to magic and madness along those lines, because it was out of grief, which is not something you typically see. It's usually they try and gain power and they just take it overboard, where this was just born of complete grief over losing her kids. So to me, that was kind of like the pinnacle of magic gone mad.
I think like it's hard for me to come up with one, because I think the whole like crux of everything is like magic is power. So it's a very like stereotypical traditional concept that I think we deal with in fantasy settings, but we also deal with it in real life. So and I think at the base of it is anyone who has power typically ends up in a situation where they're able to sort of start acting on their own impulses and whims and desires. So like Scarlet Witch, it was a good person who then started acting on what they wanted and not the greater good, if that makes sense. And I
Yeah.
think power allows people to do that. And I think in real life and in fantasy, that's the story. That's what power does. So
Good point. Good, and that's a good kickoff, because I want you guys to keep that into your minds while we're going through this. We're going to go through a couple examples of some of the mages gone mad, specifically within the D&D world. But that's always the thing that I always think about with this is where were they before? And that's always the question. Where did it start? Right. So with that said, let's kick this thing off with a real classic in terms of all of it. It's Halaster Blackcloak, A.K.A. the Mad Mage, A.K.A. the guy who single-handedly is more responsible for more TPKs than most dungeon masters.
Watcher in the Weave, all that stuff.
You know it.
Cool,
Halaster,
cool cloak. With a bunch of teeth.
It's not very
Oh, is it?
colorful though.
Yeah.
Oh, it's cool.
Because technically, it's cool. Is black cool? I always think black is hot and white is cool.
Slimming.
It is.
I mean,
Okay.
where are we going with this?
We lost it there for a minute. I was talking about temperatures. I don't know. Where
I
we
was
went with
talking
all of
about
that.
like just the coat is cool. Like you could talk to it. It probably is like that's all it probably says. Just the whole time. But
that's what I figure that Doctor Strange is the conversations he has with his cloak from time to
oh
time.
god,
yeah,
Definitely.
it's just flapping.
So if you don't know, Halaster is the wizard of the Forgotten Realm, famous for creating the Undermountain, a dungeon so massive and dangerous that even the bravest adventurers can't resist the urge to run straight into it and die horribly. But let's back up for a minute, back to what I was saying. Halaster wasn't always a magic-obsessed lunatic. Once upon a time, he was Halaster, a young wizard from Nethril, which, if you're not up with your fantasy geography, was basically the Silicon Valley of magic. So floating cities, epic spells, questionable morals, you get the vibe in all of this. Halaster was a prodigy, but even in a place where people threw around 9th level spells like party favors, he stood out as being extra. His experiments were so dangerous and unhinged that other wizards told him to cool it. And when wizards who casually play with reality itself tell you you're going a little too far, you know you've got issues at that point. So, after being kicked out, Halaster picked up his bags, waved goodbye to Nethril, and went wandering for centuries before finding a giant underground cave full of magic. Naturally, he says, "You know what this place needs? More death traps." And just like that, Undermountain was born. He carved out endless halls, summoned horrifying monsters, and filled it with puzzles so annoying they make IKEA furniture instructions look straightforward.
Right.
Now, somewhere along the way, Halaster became Halaster, and Halaster became, well, let's just say the cheese slid far too off the cracker on that one. He started talking to walls, torturing adventurers for fun, and experimenting on monsters like he was running a hellish science fair. And yet he's still kicking, or at least some version of him is. Rumor has it he's either haunting the dungeon or merged with magic entirely. Either way, if you hear creepy laughter while you're exploring Undermountain, congrats, you've probably about 30 seconds to live. Halaster's story is basically a warning. If you're going to go big with your ambitions, maybe don't go so big that you lose your mind and turn your basement into a death maze. Unless that's your thing, in which case, have fun. So where do we think Halaster went wrong?
I mean, okay, hold on. I have some questions first because I've never heard of this Halaster person.
Halaster.
This
Not
is
his cousin. No.
That is proof that I haven't heard about this until right now. So if you are also in my shoes, this is for you. So let me get this straight. There's this dude named Halaster. And he's just chilling. He's like, cool, I have some magic. But then his friends are like, whoa, you got to slow down. And then he's like, no. I'm going to make a death trap under a mountain because it'd be fun.
Yeah. That's exactly, it amuses him, like, to see people fall into his traps.
Okay, but
yeah, and I think that's the key point in all of it, is a matter of like he basically was a super mage. He was going to be one of the greatest, to the point of where some of the most powerful wizards out there said, "Hey, bud, you're going a little bit too far with all of this." So he just said, "Okay, I'm taking my ball and I'm going home at this point," and then started wandering, and that's where he ended up finding Undermountain, or what was to be Undermountain.
Okay, well, where he went wrong is that if he really wants to put a bunch of people in a death trap for just funsies, probably not the best location underneath a mountain. Just saying.
Right.
Who goes under there unless you're looking to be put in a death trap? In that sense, maybe it's a win-win for everyone.
Well, so the crazy part is that, like,
consensual death trapping.
The crazy part with Halaster first is he had like a bunch of people that followed him for a while, right? And he had a tower and everything. And then it'd be like on weekends, he's like, "I'm going down to the basement. No one come in." And then just started making the Undermountain underneath the tower. And then even, his buddies were all like, "Okay, Halaster, enough." And he's like, "I love the traps." And he just continues going with it further and further. He let it, like,
come over and see my traps.
"Yeah, look at my traps, please. No one touch that." But I imagine, like, he also kind of went crazy to the point where his this is where he really went crazy, is when he started leading raids against the Drow so he could have more of the Undermountain. Right? It was called Halaster's Hunt. And even the people that were like following him were like, yo, okay, what's going on here? And he would use them for experiments. He would like trap lower planar creatures in there as well, and like demons in the dungeon. And he would love the fact that he's doing this. And like, to kind of go back to your point, Dave, it's like he's just happy that he can get away with it, and that he can push the boundaries further and further and see how far he can get before someone comes up and is like, "Okay, dude, that's enough," kind of thing.
It's like serial killer mentality almost.
It is a little bit. It's kind of like what's her name, Kathy Bates in what was that?
Right,
movie?
Deliverance. Yeah,
was it Deliverance? Is that what it was?
Misery.
Deliverance.
Is the
that's
one with
we don't want to talk about. Yeah, no, we don't want to talk about that. Squeal like a pig. Yeah, it was really interesting looking to Halaster a little bit more, and I did leave out some of the portions in terms of the drought genocide, essentially what happened down there.
Yeah.
But it's I would agree with you, Peter. It's just it's a classic example of saying, okay, how far can I push this thing? What more can I do? And I think that there's also a hint of almost like obsessive compulsiveness that went into it as well. Like there was a certain amount of OCD where it was like, it's my traps, it's my mountain, and he just kind of lost it at that point. Just completely lost the plot.
Yeah, he collapsed the tower after. He was like, you know what? I don't even want this thing in the sky now.
Sorry. Oh, wow.
And there's so I think there was if I looked it up because there was the Dungeon of the Mad Mage module that came out a couple years ago, which basically is a giant mega dungeon crawl type scenario. I guess it was loosely supposed to be the part 2 to Waterdeep because the Undermountain is apparently either close or I don't know if it's underneath
It's
or
close. It's close.
partially underneath Waterdeep itself. But there's like 25 different levels that you have to go through. And all it is just like these warped monsters, crazy puzzles, and death traps. And that's basically the entire dungeon.
Mm-hmm. Do you all know how he kind of? I don't know if I'm jumping the gun here, Dave. So please tell me.
No, by all means.
Like how he's assumed dead now, right? Because like in Waterdeep, there was like this huge earthquake, and everyone was like, "What the fuck was that?" And then everyone got a vision of a man screaming in their heads. It sounded like Halaster. Like I can just imagine, like somebody help. So they assumed he's dead, right? But there's like there's old Dragon magazine supplements that play with this, and I think the old Undermountain talked about how he cloned himself multiple times, and he would have clones or visions of himself walking in the Undermountain dungeon just to mess with people, because they're like, are you coming up to just like a clone with no power, or are you coming up against the real Halaster, and he really liked that. But there was an old Dragon magazine supplement back in the day that you wake up and you look in the mirror, but it's not your body, it's Halaster Blackcloak's body, and he's
so
talking
you're one of
in
his
your head.
clones.
So the DM
Wow.
is talking to you as Halaster Blackcloak, like trying to get you to find the rest of his body so he can give it over, like so you can give it over to him. And it was I didn't get to look into it too much, but it's an absolute like really fun thing of just like he doesn't have the means to be a god or anything like that. He doesn't want to do that. He just literally is like, I just want to mess around in a dungeon. And he just wants to go back to doing it.
He's got that crazy hermit vibe, but murderous hermit vibe.
Right.
It's like that old meme from the X-Men comics where it was Sauron or Spider-Man, and he's like, with this technology you could cure cancer, and he's like, I don't want to cure cancer, I want to turn people into dinosaurs.
Yeah.
It's just like, all right, yeah, I guess so. We'll have different motivations.
Honestly, basically that's Halaster in a nutshell. He is just a Spider-Man meme for the most part.
He is your archetypal villain at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Well, he's definitely. I mean, he was one of the Undermountain has got to be, I would say, what, top 3 most famous dungeons in D&D. There's only like one other dungeon I can think of that even comes remotely close to that, which is on the list. So we'll
another one of our buddies over here.
It's another one of our buddies. Let's move on to our next example, shall we?
Yeah, let's do it.
Next up, we have the one, the only, probably the most famous magic user in all of D&D. The one, the only, Vecna.
Yeah, classic.
The Whispered One. The Undying King. The guy who's more responsible for more cursed body parts than an evil Build-A-Bear workshop.
True.
He's like
So
a Voldemort had motivation.
Very much so, Nate. Very much so. It's Vecna's story is the classic Zero to Lich tale. So he was originally born into a society that hated magic. He was basically the nerd that everyone picked on until he decided to really embrace the dark arts. We're talking full necromancy, immortality, the whole spooky package. And Vecna didn't just cheat death. He put it in a headlock and made death call him daddy for the most part.
Yep.
As a lich, Vecna was virtually unstoppable. He built an empire, enslaved nations, and became the ultimate don't touch that guy's phylactery warning. But of course, being a power-hungry maniac means you make a lot of enemies, and Vecna's biggest mistake was trusting his right-hand man, Cass the Bloody-Handed. Now, fun fact, if you make your most loyal servant a weapon literally called the Sword of Cass, maybe don't be surprised when he uses it on you. Cass inevitably betrayed Vecna. And when Kaz betrayed Vecna, things got a little messy. Vecna's body was destroyed, but his left hand and one of his eyes somehow survived. These artifacts are now some of the most infamous magical items in D&D, partly because they're incredibly powerful and partly because they're cursed to high heavens.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to graft the hand of Vecna onto your body, sure, you'll get cool powers, but you'll also become a raging psychopath under Vecna's control. Even after death, or whatever liches do when they're fully destroyed, Vecna wasn't done. He came back as a god, because of course he did, and now he rules over secrets, undeath, and that little voice in your head telling you to read your friend's text from time to time. Vecna is proof that you can't keep a good or incredibly evil wizard down. So Vecna, I'll say, is probably one of the most iconic, if not the most iconic character that was ever created within D&D. And if you go back into his backstory a little bit, it's very depressing, where he originally came from. To be an individual who just wanted to start experimenting with magic in the first place for what I've seen in terms of the betterment, for the most part, of society, and to have society come back and make you the pariah in all of this. I mean, that's a clear trigger, or maybe not trigger, but clear catalyst. That's the word that I'm looking for, to really bring you into being that evil, mad genius, if you will.
Well, if I might, it makes sense, because you were saying that Vecna was bullied as a kid, or made fun of at least. And sometimes, like, especially, in youth, you want to find a way to take the power back. Not literally with the sense of magic, but when he did, he probably just wanted to test boundaries and see how far he could take it, because the more powerful he got, the less consequences that he had, and therefore the more he could say suck it to all the little kids who made fun of him.
Well,
So
I mean,
was it very much an I'll show them sort of situation? Like, I'll show them.
No, it was a rise to power. And Rayna Rai, I know we're not supposed to be paying it a chat, but I just looked over and mentioned his mother was enslaved too. So he was a slave in all of this. This was a rise up and defeat those who are evil. But as the classic story goes, you either die the hero or live long enough to see yourself become the villain, which I think is very much exactly what we're seeing with Vecna.
Yeah, probably because the more, like, this is kind of what I'm saying. Like, I don't think initially it was like, haha, I'm evil. I think it was a slow sliding scale, because the more powerful you get, the less checks and balances and consequences that you have for your actions. So you kind of just like one little stair at a time. And sure, if you compare the first stair to the top stair, there's a huge difference. But along the way, it's just like, what's one more little nudge this way? Okay, so right. I freed my mom, or I don't know. I'm assuming he did. I have no idea if he did. But next thing, you know what? I'm going to free them all. You know what? I'm going to start my own trade. Like, who knows? It could just keep going up and up and up.
Yeah, I mean, and that's
a couple Tusken Raiders.
Yeah, and that really is exactly how it went for him. I mean, he went from I'm going to overthrow these enslavers to make my people, put my people in a better place. Eventually, just became the dictator himself. He eventually took over and basically ruled the entire realm.
It's funny because there's like a lot of conflicting theories. When I was doing like a bunch of research on this, like, he's very much, at the end of the day, the Lich is Lich, right? He's Queen Lich here.
Mhm.
King Lich, whatever. But there's like a bunch of things that like kind of we don't know exactly how he became immortal, and that like he apparently he created a spell to foresee his own death first, and then
Oh.
he could always avoid death. That was one of the theories, and there was another theory that he offended the gods so much that they cursed him with immortal life, which I think is a little bit of a flimsy one if there's that much of a problem. And taught, or like he taught forbidden magic from Orcus and turned himself into a lich, which I think is probably a little bit more the one that has legs for me. I do like the idea of like being able to see your death and always trying to avoid it, but eventually that's going to catch up on to you, right?
Mhm.
Yeah,
Well, I think it was well, I can't remember if it was Vecna Returns or Vecna Rises, or if it was actually in Vecna Die, which was the first modules that came out with Vecna in it. But he was originally a worshiper of Orcus, and one of the big components of that adventure is that he wanted to go steal the Wand of Orcus, because it was said that the Wand of Orcus being the demon lord of the undead, that the Wand of Orcus would allow him to control the undead entirely.
Mhm.
And that was kind of one of his big claim to fame, is that and within the module you actually go down to Orcus to help basically get him to help you defeat Vecna.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
I do like the Vecna Reborn, and then it's also taking place in Ravenloft thing too, which I feel like Vecna and Strahd together. I don't know if he's like if Strahd's around in the timeline there as well, but that would be a potent combo if they work together.
It's such a great setting to really dive into. I mean, Strahd, you had Vecna there. There was someone else that was there that I always forget, but was a big name as well. What I always would have loved to see, and maybe I'll run it myself one day, is seeing a merger of Ravenloft and Dark Sun to create that apocalyptic, true macabre fantasy horror. I think that would be such a cool setting to play in.
I mean, they got to do some fine tuning on that for now, for Dark Sun. But yeah, I would love to see that kind of Mad Max horror esque sort of
Mork Borg style, like
yeah. Bring some more grimdark into it, right? Like you had that with the Dungeon Dudes, Grim Hollow, right? That's they brought some grimdark in, but we can go darker for sure.
Yeah, it's just a matter of how deep you want to take that.
Yeah, for sure.
The next one I want to talk about, this one's a little weird to me, because I never thought of this individual as like a mad wizard per se.
Oh.
Mostly because of the credit that they get in 5e, which is I found interesting. A lot of people know the name of this wizard. It's got its own book written after them. Tasha.
Hot take.
Yes.
So let's talk about Tasha for a minute. Or as her friends and enemies know her, her name was Iggwilv. I think I'm pronouncing that right.
Yep.
She's basically the poster child for the phrase "beauty and brains will get you everywhere," including into a toxic relationship with a demon lord. So Tasha started out as an orphan who eventually got adopted by Baba Yaga. And yes, I mean that Baba Yaga, the witch who lives in a house with chicken legs.
Right.
oh,
Under Baba
it seems
Yaga's
practical in the summertime. It's good circulation.
Yeah.
it gets that breeze in the
Mhm.
in the undercarriage, you know.
Oh my God.
Under Baba Yaga's mentorship, Tasha learned the fine art of manipulating people and the slightly less fine art of summoning demons. She was so good at it that she literally wrote the book on demonology, or the Demonomicon. Tasha's greatest hit, though, was seducing and enslaving Grisat, one of the most powerful demon lords in the Abyss. That's right, she didn't just summon him, she made him her boyfriend. Talk about that's seriously punching above your weight class. Their relationship was, we'll say it was complicated. They fought, they schemed, they probably had awkward dinners in the Abyss. Eventually, they broke up, by which I mean Grisat tried to kill her and she banished him back to the Abyss.
Naturally.
As if all of that wasn't enough, Tasha also ruled an empire for a while. But like most wizards on this list, her ambition got the better of her, and she ended up in exile. These days, Tasha's name is synonymous with clever magic and ruthless ambition. She's basically what happens when a magical prodigy grows up to be a girl boss, but like an evil, evil, evil girl boss. So that one really took me by surprise while I was going through my research because, Tasha seems to be so much more playful in 5e. I don't get the evil mad wizard vibe from her.
Yeah.
I
had no idea. Literally didn't know until right now.
Yeah.
I'm kind of in the same boat.
Go ahead, Nate.
Yeah, no, I mean, I haven't played the previous editions. I kind of just came in on 5e itself, but yeah, I mean, I thought it was kind of like Dave said, more playful rather than devious evil person.
Yeah, well, like if you look a little bit more into the backstory, like she changes her names often. She's had more names than Tasha. So whenever or Iggwilv, like I look at it as like on the run. I think it's more ambition than madness, right? She's plundered like a god's like riches before, but then there was like a weird little turn where she like served on the Company of Seven, which is like pretty much the Avengers of Greyhawk, and they had imprisoned like a demon, Fraz something, and Tasha eventually started getting kind of corrupted in a way, right? And by speaking with this demon and learning secrets more and more, and then she was convinced to like run away with all these magic items, and then that's when she used those things to like imprison Daddy Graz, right? And
well, it makes me wonder if the relationship with Grisat, that is what really was the catalyst there. Because I mean, I don't know if you guys know who Grisat is, but I would say he is one of my top 3 demon lords out there, Orcus being the top. Grisat following closely underneath that. So he is basically the daddy Mac of demon lords. He was basically the one who Cambions come from, Succubus come from. Those are the demons that follow behind this demon lord. He was known for his seductive power.
He's the party guy.
He is very, very much the pretty boy party guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it makes me wonder of like how big his influence was on Tasha in order to get her to that point. Or was she already there? Because like, was she just one of those little girls who got abducted by a truly evil being and then turned into the anime villain, where it's, the little girl in a schoolgirl uniform with pigtails that also have giant wielding battle axes in both hands and then like giggling behind her?
I think it's more of like a maybe when she imprisoned, I'm gonna always keep calling him Daddy Graz, but when she imprisoned Daddy Graz, she was like, "Oh shit, I can do this," kind of thing. You know what I mean? Like maybe it was like a realization of like, I've got this power now. But like, she had all these items already, and she was kind of going against the Company of Seven. But it's very, very, a very weird turn. So I don't know, maybe what the demon Fraz something was looking at and talking to her about, maybe that convinced her, and maybe that's why she looked at going at Graz, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if she's inherently evil. I just see ambitious. Like I see, like if I'm gonna put like a 1-to-1 on it, Galadriel, right there, from
Yeah.
Lord of the Rings.
Yeah,
she's
almost
a
more
very
to the dark
Galadriel.
side.
Yeah, like she's touched the dark side. She knows how to wield it, but at the same time, like I don't know if
Yeah, but
Galadriel's
she was a
in it.
big promoter of it as well. I mean, to be the one to write the Demonomicon, like that's
Yeah.
not just like I'm just playing with it. That's saying I'm putting darkness and evil into the world.
Right. Yeah.
And again,
That's
is it a
tough.
matter of like, was she actually evil, or was it the fact that she could?
Well, I think that sort of goes back to what I was saying earlier about like power unchecked. Basically, you start to remove barriers for yourself, and you just kind of lose track of things, and you start acting on your own impulses, as opposed to thinking about other people less and less and less. And then, but the real question is here's the question, because this has been in my head since we started this. One of my most favorite BBEGs is Thanos, which arguably is not a mage. But whatever. Do we think Thanos was mad? Like, where is the line with madness and just somebody who is kind of doing bad things?
Depends on where you go. I mean, Thanos' nickname was literally the Mad Titan.
Mad Titan, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, but I mean,
Yeah.
okay, but he did bad. I'm not trying to say he did good things. I'm just saying, like,
Yeah, I mean,
where's the
I guess
line? Like, writing a
could
book about demons, is that mad, or is that just somebody like Peter saying who's a little ambitious and a little evilly inclined?
Well,
Well-
he was looking to try and impress Lady Death as well. Like I'm sure the rest of the comic fellas can chime in here too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, Thanos' whole thing, he was goes back. Celestials made 3 different races. One of them the cool people, one of them the bad people, the deviants kind of thing. Deviants are gross. Nobody likes the deviants, that
Mhm.
kind of thing. Thanos was a deviant, but he was raised in the high society kind of deal. He killed his mom when he was like 8 because he wanted to. So like,
Oh.
yeah, he's never been
he was a
good guy.
bad dude. Yeah.
Yeah.
And he was as
Right.
as Peter was saying, he was utterly obsessed with death. So Lady Death is an entity within the Marvel universe. And there's an embodiment of her. And the crazy part is, and it's always been like the funniest thing to me in Marvel comics, where Thanos was just the biggest. He's one of the
Right,
most
simp.
powerful creatures, but
Yeah.
also the biggest simp. He is King Maddie Dax simp for her.
Yeah.
And she only wanted Deadpool.
Just a massive donation of souls, and she just said thanks. And
Yeah. And then was like, Wade, where you at, boy? Let me call you. She would allow Thanos to take her out for really fancy dinners, take her home, and then she would call Deadpool at 3 a.m. If you know what I mean. She would text him with a, "You up?"
Oh no.
Yeah.
So I mean, it was. I do hear what you're saying, because you're somewhat right, and I see where your train of thought's coming from, Rayna.
I'm not trying to make a point. I'm literally asking, where do we decide that someone is mad?
What's madness versus intent?
What's madness versus like somebody who just did something bad or made a wrong choice or is evil? Like, are all evil people mad? Is that what we're saying, or is there a scale?
Well, I think the difference is that I would agree with Nate. It's around intent. So it's a matter of like, if you accidentally do something that destroys half the universe, yeah, okay, you would probably be labeled by the historians as evil without a question. You wiped out half the population in the universe. But at the end of the day, it was an accident. It wasn't your intent to do so. By writing the book of the Demonomicon to teach other people how to really harness the power of the demons, who are unquestionably the most evil things you could possibly think of in D&D. I mean, because that's the difference between devils and demons, right? Like, devils at least have a hierarchy. There's a lawfulness to their evil. So there's an order of operations, where demons are always chaotic evil. So it's like you're giving people the ability to summon and work with the worst of the worst of the worst. And I guarantee it's going to be for nefarious purposes. There's very rarely that demons get summoned to be like, hey, I want to do this. I want to go save this orphanage of puppies. Like, that's not what you're getting when you summon demons.
I think like the question is, or like the question to all of you is, does intent drive people to madness if they don't get what they want, kind of thing, right? And because when someone's quote unquote mad, they're either super hyper fixated on one thing, or they're like super frustrated that they can't get it, and
Fair.
I think that's where the madness drives in. Let's use Halaster for example. Halaster's ever growing dungeon, to see people fall to many traps, that drove him mad, and it was never enough. Vecna wanting to ascend to godhood, that was never enough, then got killed, came back. He's like, you know what, I'm going for round 2. Tasha is weird. Like, if we're gonna use like my joking alternative theory in that, she was a failed comic and created Tasha's hideous laughter to hear someone talk back to her, laugh back at her. Total side note is, when Tasha's Cauldron of Everything came out, D&D took over Twitter. Tasha took over D&D's Twitter, and I tweeted at her. I'm like, "Were you a failed comic?" And the response was not nice because they were doing it very much in character of Tasha being like, "No," but I'm sure that people have laughed more at my jokes than yours ever will. I was like, "Okay, thank you."
Oh,
But I think Tasha
Mad or
isn't-
not, bitch confirmed. My God.
I don't think Tasha is mad, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, to me again, I when after doing the research into it, it's like it's madness for the sake of being able to be mad to a certain extent. It's the evil little girl antagonist in every anime where it's like, well, why are you like flaying people? Why are you tearing people to shreds? Because I can. There's no motive behind it. It's just Tasha does things because she can. And I think as she progresses, just like the rest, her power grows more and more, and her willingness to do more and more at that point is what really tips her over the scale into insanity.
Mm.
I mean, I would have liked to see what happened if, you know, if she continued to hold on to Graz and that like he didn't escape and fought Tasha and Tasha won, but ultimately like we know what happens. Like he just goes right back down and is biding his time, right? Like to come back. And I think that'd be a really cool kind of next supplement if you want to put it into a D&D thing, like surrounded around like a demon war between Tasha and Graz, and like that would be an awesome like thing to play in. If you're a player, you can choose either side or something like that.
I mean, personally, I think she would have turned Graz into a cuck, but that's kind of what I was thinking. If we really want to go down that road.
Time to start the real podcast. Who's a Cuck 101?
Yeah, Graz is just sitting in the corner when Big Daddy Orcus shows up with his magic wand.
Oh my God. Okay, so I see on Google here. That's right. We do our research real good.
We also do our talking reels good.
In a psychological context, mad often refers to a state of psychosis characterized by delusions, hallucinations, and disorganized thinking, while evil is more of a moral judgment signifying a lack of empathy, extreme cruelty, and intentional harm towards others, meaning someone can be mad without necessarily being considered evil, and vice versa. Both concepts are complex and should be handled with sensitivity.
Wow. Well, I mean, if there's anything we're known for on this podcast, it's our level of sensitivity. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Although,
are we really known for anything yet? I mean, this is episode 1. We could do anything.
You know, let's keep the level low so we can rise up there by episode 10. You know what I mean?
What the fuck?
Yeah. We need to we can't outdo ourselves. Let's wait till we get to episode 2 on that one.
Right. Okay.
I was gonna show feet.
Oh.
No, that's episode 6. That's you didn't get the
Patreon.
outline.
Sorry, hi.
Scheduled.
Listen, I like you didn't read the podcasts.
Nobody reads the notes.
All right, moving into our last one. This one's a little bit of a quicker one because there's not a lot of research that I could find on this one. And I don't even know if I'm going to say the name right. We'll just make it up as we go along.
No.
So finally we have Acererak. I think I'm saying that right. Acererak?
Yeah. That's
Acererak. Acererak, something along those lines.
Acererak, I think it is, not Acererak.
Acererak is the lich who decided that ruling the world was overrated and that building the deadliest dungeon ever was much better use of his time. And this goes into what we were talking about with the other, probably the most famous or infamous dungeon in Dungeons and Dragons.
He'd be besties with Halaster.
They could do housewarming parties.
There is a link. There is a link between two Mad Mages and from Acererak, sorry, and another one. Dave, you go ahead.
All right. Yeah, let's get the breakdown of it first, so people know what we're talking about. So Acererak's claim to fame is Tomb of Horrors, it's a dungeon so infamous it's basically the Dark Souls of D&D. It's filled with traps, puzzles, and more ways to die than a bad roguelike game. Why did Acererak build it? Probably because he was bored, or maybe he just really hated adventurers. Either way, the tomb isn't just a dungeon; it's a death trap masquerading as a tourist destination. Acererak himself didn't even hang out there most of the time. He's too busy doing lich stuff in other dimensions, leaving the tomb to mess with adventurers on its own. But if you do manage to get through all the traps and find him, congrats, you're probably going to die anyway. Acererak is the ultimate troll, and he's not interested in power or glory. He just wants to watch adventurers suffer. And honestly, coming from a DM, respect.
Yeah.
I would
get it.
classify him as mad and evil.
So, Dave, do you want me to reveal the link? Do you know the link?
I don't.
Okay. Well, what if I told you, folks?
I wouldn't believe you.
Okay. Acererak was actually the mentee of Vecna.
Vecna. That's it.
Not the
that's
mentor, the
Halaster.
mentee.
The
So,
mentee.
I said, so he was rescued by Vecna as a boy. So what happened
Interesting.
is Acererak is actually half demon. This is before tieflings were a thing. So technically, tiefling.
Okay.
And he kind of became a very much like I hate my dad kind of kid
Mhm.
because his mother got killed by an angry mob. Because he
Wait,
was born half demon.
What does that have to do with his dad, though?
Because his dad's the demon. And if he, yeah.
So his mom was attacked for like social reasons, basically.
Yes, because
Okay.
in D&D lore, tieflings, half demon children, no bueno.
Okay. Gotcha. Okay.
So he was rescued by Vecna, and he saw Vecna become a lich, and he's like, I want to do that. So then he made the Tomb of Horrors to feed the phylactery, his phylactery. And then obviously later on, Tomb of Annihilation was kind of like the up step of that. And he, but he's like, it's funny because like there's no information on it because I personally believe that Wizards of the Coast is holding off on making any more lore because they made him essentially unkillable at points. I think they want to bring him back like they did with Vecna, just because I think Tomb of Annihilation was actually a pretty good seller early on in the 5e run. I don't have the numbers on me.
It always sounded cool to me. Like it's definitely not like my first D&D adventure, but like somebody from the outside, I was always like, that'd be fun with the proper DM and like a right like character. Also, if you just had the agreement of like you're gonna die and then you could just make a new one.
Fair.
Yeah, it's
Well,
like the Morkborg of D&D. Not to bring Morkborg up twice in one podcast, but
You love your Morkborg. It's okay.
Yeah.
We know
great.
you love your Morkborg.
It's great.
Well, fun fact is I thought that Acererak was Vecna before I really started to get into D&D because I saw pictures of it and I was like, oh yeah, well that's what a lich looks like. That's basically what it is. Which is interesting to me that Vecna was involved because the settings are different, right? Because isn't Tomb of Horrors? I thought Tomb of Horrors was in like just off the coast of Chult.
Googling.
I'm literally looking
could be
at
wrong.
pictures of Acererak and Vecna right now, and they
very similar.
they're similar. I mean, yeah, I could see how you would assume it's Vecna. Like with the crown too. Acererak is the one with the crown. I think I've seen a picture of Acererak and being like, oh, there's Vecna.
Yeah, well, they redid Vecna's art now to make him look a little hot. I'm gonna say it.
Especially the Stranger Things version of him. Damn.
No.
Oh,
he looks like a pile of spaghetti.
no.
You
Slurp it up. The Tomb of Horrors is in Greyhawk. It's the vast swamp south of Sundi. So
which is the one in Chult then?
Well, Tasha, Acererak, and Vecna are Greyhawk, and I think is Halaster?
No, Halaster's from Forgotten Realms
Yeah, Forgotten Realms, right?
because he's from Nethril.
Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, he's another one where it's just a matter of he does it because he can, right? I think he kind of reminds me of like a Joker-esque kind of character archetype. You know what I mean? Just someone who wants to watch the world burn. Where someone like Halaster has a definitive, well, they were mean to me, so I'm just going to murder everyone. Acererak is very much the I just want to promote the chaos of it all.
Oh, so we just got it in chat. Tomb of Annihilations is in Chult.
Oh, it's Tomb of Annihilation. Okay.
Tomb
okay.
of Horror is in
Greyhawk. Gotcha. Okay. That makes a lot more sense. Yeah. Yeah, no, Acererak is he's an interesting case. There's not much to him other than just madness and death.
I am bad guy. See, and that kind of brings back to like full circle of the argument, right? It's like most times when you're ever going to bring in a mad mage or somebody of that level of villainy, of like unredeemable villainy that you're clearly just going to have to defeat, it's to answer the call of good, right? Like to give the players something to go up against where there is no moral gray area. They're gone bad. This is the bad guy. Go in, beat him up, and fight him. And that's very much how the original like theme of D&D started, right? Very black and white. So I feel like that having that line of like, even if you could take this into like, you know, Disney movies and kids movies and things like that, right? Like it's like you know, what about Emperor's New Groove, Yzma the Mad Witch, right? Like it's very much just that. We need a throwaway bad guy. Sometimes he'll last a little while than normal. Sometimes he'll get wiped out. But look at Vecna. Look at all the other guys. Where's all their fate and lore, right? Eventually taken down by, you know, forces that be, right?
Yeah. Well, that's what I always find interesting when it comes to D&D lore, is especially with older characters, where it was a matter of original D&D was there wasn't a lot of role play at all. It was a matter of like they'd start you right at the beginning of the dungeon, go through the dungeon, get your loot, go back to the city, and like basically that was the end of it all. Like you got your loot, you got your gold. That's exactly. It was very much mechanical in that sense. And then seeing them now start to overlay a lot more of the lore, a lot more of the role play aspects into it, because it's such a heavy component of the game nowadays. It's always interesting to see how they go back and explain it all. And I hope you're right, Peter, in the sense of them bringing back the Acererak to expand on the lore a little bit more there.
I think it'd be a good introduction for a new villain. They had Vecna recently. We've had Tasha recently. Like, we have Mordenkainen. Like, you know, honorable mention to Mordenkainen, Zaz Tam, all those crazy no-nos people and all that stuff. But I think truly, like, Acererak's probably due for some sort of update. And Halaster was in the Mad Mage in 5e, but later on, I don't know. That's just that's me looking at my crystal ball.
Yeah. Fingers crossed for the future. So that's what we have in terms of the Mad Mages for our little podcast today. Good examples of all of them, but I want to switch it over because we had a couple submissions from our community. More specifically, either stories, questions, advice, things along those lines. So we'll turn it over to the lovely Rayna to let us know about those.
Oh my god! So I'm so excited for this part. And if you're listening to this or watching this now, stay tuned, because I'm hoping that we're going to redo this every time. And I think it's super fun to get you guys to input on the theme. So all of these are Mad Mage BBEG themed. And so the first one is from Polo, he, him. And this looks like it is a "Am I an asshole?" post.
Okay.
Okay, are we ready?
Yeah,
let's do it. Let's judge someone harshly.
Yes, let's put our judging hats on. Oh, what's that new trend that's going around? We listen and we don't judge. Okay, sorry. All right. Would I be?
Can we listen and judge though?
Yes. Yeah. On this podcast, we judge.
We judge on this. Okay, is that our new tagline?
God.
Yeah.
I love
it. this is from Polo, he, him. Would I be an asshole if the moment I learnt Glyph of Warding and I wrote one glyph on everyone without them knowing and waited to see if any of them turned on the group before detonating it? Personally, no. Better safe than sorry. So I think this one is, I'm just going to add the context here. I think this one is Mad Mage related because I think Polo might be wanting to play a Mad Mage.
Mad Mage. Yeah, it's written by. Yeah.
So what do we
that
think?
feels-
What do we think here?
I think it's perfectly acceptable if they're your friends and it's something you could laugh at later.
From a different standpoint, like I'm thinking from a storytelling standpoint, how much of a Suicide Squad-esque reveal?
Yeah.
By the way, I put all those glyphs on you. Step out of line and see ya.
Yeah, basically, it's the little neck bracelets or the embedded things that they have in their heads. I can't remember.
Yeah.
Yeah, it also seems a little dystopian to me. But anyway, sorry, Dave. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be. I would say it's very much dependent on how the style of game is being played right now. You always have to keep in mind that this is a collaborative storytelling effort, and people fall in love with their characters. So to threaten them with harm, I would say, what you give out definitely comes back to you at the end of the day. So I would definitely be cautious. If it's just for a joke, it's for a funny haha meme, then yeah, I mean, if you can remove the runes after the fact, then yeah, but this is supposed to be your adventuring party, right? You're supposed to be able to trust these people with your life and vice versa. And adding runes to it that blows them up at the end of the day, that's a
hilarious.
bit of a hard
I
sell.
like what you're saying there, Dave.
Yeah, I think if you're being serious about this, I think maybe talk to your DM if you aren't the DM. I'm assuming you're a player in this context. And I don't know, read the room. I know there's sort of an element of surprise to this, so it's sort of hard to ask your players, hey, is it cool if I put a wording on you and then surprise you at the end of it? So I think if you just did it without telling anyone, I think you're probably going to end up being the asshole. So that's my cautionary tale.
Well, it's also the fact that it'll be funny haha for a minute for you, but then you have to keep playing with these people afterward. And that's the big
it, right?
Then it gets
Don't make more
really
work for
awkward.
yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it'd be fun to do it to a group of bandits as they sleep, and then you're like, hey guys, guess what I just did? And then you hear an explosion off in the distance.
Oh, to other people.
Yeah.
Party. Yeah, that's probably better target if you're looking for a comedic haha. But yeah, some people put a lot of effort into their characters, and I would be pretty pissed if someone just blew me up. But I don't know.
I think I think if you really want to go down that road, and this isn't just a meme post, talk to your DM about it first. You don't have to tell the players about it, but talk to the DM, because they've, if it's a good DM, he or she has their finger on the pulse. And it's kind of like, okay, what does this do to our story overall? Is there something we can do out of it? Do you want your character to become the BBEG? Because that might be interesting, going like an Amanda Waller route in all of it, going back to the Suicide Squad. But yeah, I would run that one past the DM first if you're actually serious about that one.
Yeah.
Okay, so what's our am I the asshole? Am I not? What are we? What is your vote? Everyone hands up for am I the asshole?
Well, I mean, I don't want to say asshole or not, because they're
the
asking
choice
about
is theirs.
it. The choice is theirs at the end of the day. If they, give us the part 2 on that one if you decide to go through it, and we'll do an am I an asshole on that one. Yeah, potential asshole at the end of the day.
The question is, would I be an asshole if I did these things? So that's the question.
I mean, if you just outright did it without communicating at all and just doing it for the sake of doing it, I would lean on probably.
Yeah.
All right, jury's out on that one. All right, next submission is our storytime category from our home slice, Brandon from America. When I say America, it makes us
America?
sound
It's so
super
far off.
Canadian. Okay. When I first started doing D&D content / podcasting, I had a substance in my game that was called Mad Mage. It was a colored powder that you would inhale that would give you random magic abilities, but also have some downsides to it. Okay, yeah, so it was basically just magic Coke, but you get the drift. Anyways, the party ended up getting so zonked out on Mad Mage that they ended up getting into a fight in a bar, but used cheese as their weapons. They thought the slices of cheese were magic missiles, but it was really just cheese. Cheese flew through the tavern, resulting in the deaths of 3 NPCs, one by choking on cheese, one by slipping on cheese and breaking their neck, and another happened to be severely allergic to dairy products.
Oh my god.
We ended up calling it the Great Cheese Catastrophe. All the realm now
So much death there was.
all the realm now feared the party not as warriors, but because they got so high that they could weaponize cheese. Cheese then became the normal type of weapon in the game. Swords made of steel cheddar, fireball became fire gouda, and arrows had a sharpened Swiss tips. It was all cheese. Eventually, the party came down from their high, and it had turned out that the last 8 sessions we played of this, now
None of it
cheese
was
ruled
real.
the world. None of it's real.
Amazing.
And it had turned out that the last 8 sessions we played of this, now cheese ruled the world, was all just a fever dream and not real.
Oh my god.
All thanks to the drugs.
He pulled the Dallas on them. Oh,
Drugs
my
are good.
God.
Amazing, yeah.
God.
Anyways, they ended up waking up naked in a swamp with no idea how they got there.
Now, that's a great start. That's
Yeah.
a great start. I love it.
That's how you start a campaign right there. That's how it is. Man,
never-
all I got to say is...
Hey, I'm not done.
Oh, you're not done? Oh, I thought that was... I thought... My bad. My bad.
They never touched the Mad Mage again. Don't do drugs. Cheese. That's the end of the post. Oh
Hey,
my
listen,
god.
Mad Mage is a hell of a drug. You know what I mean? If there's one thing I've learned.
That is an amazing story, and it's really funny that it was called Mad Mage. And I could see what prompted Brandon to submit this story time. And
It
all
gives
this-
me some ideas about how to add cheese into our campaign, though. That's for sure.
I know. And all the cheese, like the cheese
Really got the rituals and
catastrophe,
stuff.
like people dying of choking on cheese and stuff. I was like,
Great
this
cheese
feels like
catastrophe.
something that would happen to us.
I feel like there's not enough deadly common food allergies in D&D.
Yeah. I could just imagine one of
Right.
the players being like, Brandon's like, oh, well, it hits him, but, it doesn't really do much damage. And then the player's like,
Oh,
is
no.
he
I'm
allergic
lactose
to
intolerant.
dairy?
Yeah.
Go for
Double
it!
damage from dairy. Like, yeah.
I was just about to say I want to make 2 towns and call one of them lactose, and then like the other town just hates them, and the whole debate is over
Lactose
lactose
intolerance.
intolerance. That's the one we want.
Mhm.
Brandon's here in chat. That's literally what happened. I knew it.
Amazing.
Oh,
Yeah, I've
okay.
always liked the idea of like forced negatives on a character to give you more positives. So it's like, hey,
Yeah.
you want an extra +1 whatever athletics, then take this trait that comes with that gives you like a food allergy and -1 constitution. Like something
Yeah.
stupid, right? Pay off for
Yeah.
a benefit. But yeah, I'd love to see a character with a nut allergy.
I love it. I played a character once in one of Dave's like before we started streaming, and she had a dust allergy. So when we were in the we did a dungeon crawl and it was
Like
dusty.
sneaking.
So I had
Yeah.
to make a bunch of rolls, and I had so I was sneezing and had an allergic reaction.
Roll for hay fever.
I Templar's
We literally we basically ran Curse of Strahd, and she decided to give her character a dust allergy, like the worst possibly place
With
you could
wild magic on
That's why
that.
I like
oh,
you,
come
Rayna.
on. It'd be amazing.
True.
Okay, next submission is a horror story, a TTRPG horror story.
Ooh, okay.
This is submitted from Anonymous. So here we go. I have a horror story that revolved around my BBEG that infuriates me 5 years later. English is not my native language, but I hope I'll be able to make sense. I DM'd a 5e game for, at that time, 4 new players. Their main task was to collect power orbs that several separate bad guys were after for their own. I made a guide type character that they could consult on the world and monsters and lore and other stuff that they could find relevant or just chat around after combat in their tavern room. This guide said that there was an immortal general that led his legions to conquer the world, and he was so powerful that the only way there was to stop him is to polymorph him into an animal and put him into the magical suppressive cage.
Oh my God.
To humiliate him further, he was put in the zoo for people to see. Long story short, one of our players, let's call him Cobalt, heard this BBEG general's voice in his head while walking through the zoo, calling to set him free. Oh no. Cobalt decided to set him free, and he runs away to his servants to get brought back to human form. The players rush after him, have a fight in his hideout, but unfortunately, they get to him too late. Knowing that BBEG was immortal and not knowing how to kill him yet, they still attacked him. He spares them and lets them go because they initially have set him free. The idea was to let the players escape and think of how to break BBEG's immortality, going for an adventure to find the right spell. And I thought it would be a cool idea to play out of their mistake. Again, I didn't push or mind control them to do all this. Instead, my players told me that I gave the BBEG a plot armor and railroaded them into not killing him then and there. They didn't want to continue playing in 5 years and several campaigns full of fun later. They still blame me for not letting them kill a BBEG I told them was immortal.
Wow.
This ties great into the Acererak or whatever his name is.
Acererak.
Acererak.
Now, does it say anything about a dairy allergy in there? Because I feel like, there's I could understand that from both the DM's perspective and the player's perspective. And this is something that I think a lot of DMs suffer from time to time, and I'm definitely guilty of it as well, is not giving enough information. Like
Yeah.
you feel like you're telling too much and you're giving away too much of the story. So you keep it in your head and you try and dribble it in from time to time, like just drops of information here or there. And it's always a hard balance, because it's kind of like you don't want to give away, you don't want to give up the ghost on this. You want to keep some level of mystery, but at the same time, if from a player's perspective, if you feel like you've just been road blocked, not even railroaded, but road blocked, it's very difficult, and it can get very frustrating from a player perspective. So that's a tough one. It just comes with time and practice to try and figure out, okay, what information can I give, what do I hold back on. And that's why I like doing big lore dumps every couple episodes, because it doesn't, you might not give them the definitive, here's what you have to go do, but you give them enough where it's like, here's a lead into the next thing that will take you from step 1 to step 2, because all players are looking at is from step 1 to how do we get to step Z, and it's your job as the dungeon master to guide them there.
Yeah, I think This just sounds like a miscommunication, to be honest, which is the sad part about it all. That's the real horror story, is that everyone was really just trying to have a good time at the table.
Yeah,
Like, it seems,
expectations versus
yeah, and it just seems like the players probably just thought like that was the end of it. So there's probably a miscommunication in terms of like maybe there's a better, like Dave was saying, maybe there's a better way. It could have been communicated that there was more to, you're going to see him again or something like that, you know?
Yeah,
Um,
like you could definitely have like your Team Rockets blasting off again, sort of
yeah.
exit for the BBEG at the time. You could pepper in some, like Dave said, doing lore dumps of it. Dump that lore. But I would do it like if you're plundering the area, you find a book, you read the book. Guess what? He's been doing all this stuff to make himself
Yeah.
immortal, sort of thing, right? And it's you got to give some more information for sure. Some people be like, well, if you look at it from of like an actual reading uh aspect, it's less of a show don't tell. But I sometimes think in D&D you need to tell instead of show, right?
Yeah.
This is an instance where you need to show that, like, hey, this person's working on is immortal. This is the experiences they're working on, and then you can do like some checks, arcana check, or talk to someone who there. You can have a little story figuring out what the fuck's in this journal and why is it so important. Why is it locked behind something? Boom, you find out it's the recipe to be immortal.
Well, so I do want to clarify. The players knew 100% that this BBG was immortal.
Okay.
They still chose to attack him. And then they were upset when the DM, they felt like the DM was creating like plot armor, being like, oh, I'll let you go free this time. And the DM was like, oh, they can meet up later. That's the thing that I don't think the players knew. I think the miscommunication, at least from what I'm understanding here, is the players just thought that it was just plot armor and they could never kill him. They could only polymorph him in the end, put him back in the zoo. But it's like the DM was not planning on that. The DM was planning on creating a trail of clues later that they could figure out how to actually kill him.
Yeah, and that is such a delicate tightrope to walk on, to have your players come face to face with a villain. Because I kind of go under the philosophy of you really can't have that fight necessarily occur. You can have them come face to face, and I'll go back to like campaign 1 of Careful Cantrip, where there was numerous times where you guys ended up being face to face with the big bad, Uncle Darius, right? He showed up at the ball. You were able to sit down and talk to him, but there was no way that you could have possibly attacked at that point in time because you were in the middle of this big celebration of him being this benefactor of the ball. There was you couldn't get away with it at that point. And there's been other instances where it's like, okay, you've gone to the BBEG's lair, he's there, you get to talk to him for a little bit, maybe standing up on a platform or on a balcony or something along those lines, and then he sends his lieutenant after you at that point. Because the minute that you have that battle occur, you're assuming this is the end battle, and if players have to be
hard not to feel
willing
cheated.
to exactly, you have to give them the ability to win one way or another, right? If you're going to have that actual fight take place, it's a matter of, okay, this is the final battle that we're going up against. If you're not giving them any clues beforehand, it's you got to hold back on those. And it like I said, it's a slippery slope, and I feel for the DM, whoever wrote this, because it's a very it's advanced maneuvering when you want to have a face-to-face with a party in the BBEG before you're ready for that to happen. And yeah, so it's always there's always going to be minions. There's always going to be lieutenants, captains. There's going to be people working with the BBEG. So my advice would always be you can have them come face to face out of attack range for the most part, and then have his second in command go after them that isn't immortal at that point. And then they take off kind of thing after you go and you kill the second in command. They give this you'll never win, blah 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 blah. They leave the lair at that point, and then all of a sudden a famous tale about a bard who was immortal that decided to give up being immortal suddenly pops up, and it gives you a lead into what happens next into everything. But to have them actually fight the BBEG, I've never seen it pulled off where it's not either the DM feels cheated because the players beat the BBEG before you plan to have them beat the BBEG, or alternatively the players feel cheated because it's like, well, exactly this situation where you're saying, oh, it's plot armor.
Yeah.
I just kind of also want to say to the person who submitted this, we're putting a lot on you right now in terms of how you can fix it. And I feel like we're just trying to offer you solutions. Like, we're not saying that this is 100% your fault. I think the thing that is the worst part of this story is that they were playing for 5 years and had several campaigns together, and this one thing happened and then they all quit. It's like, I feel like this
that could have been communicated better.
Yeah, I think, just a little chat after where people were being open and truthful could have helped there. And I think that's kind of on the people who it honestly feels like they rage quit. That's what it feels like, which is the saddest part. And I'm sorry that happened to you, because, a DM put so much, even though it went this way, it's horrible that it went this way for you. But I can tell they put so much work into this. They already had a plan for how they wanted it to go and stuff. And it turned into this horrible experience. So I don't know. I just want to say I'm sorry that happened to you.
Yeah, it was a shitty situation all around. Like, I'm not blaming anyone and I'm not saying it was the DM's fault or anything. I was just commenting on the fact of it's a very tricky line to walk for that particular thing. It's ambitious, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. And unfortunately in this case it didn't. But yeah, to walk away from a table just for this, there's I think there's more information there that maybe the DM doesn't even know.
Yeah. Okay, our last submission is from Con. Dave, do it. Con. He pronouns. I am about to start a new. Oh, this is the question category, our advice column. I'm about to start a new homebrew campaign with a group that has already played a campaign together. In the last campaign, our Mad Mage encounter was with a necromancer named Daraka. I hope I pronounced that right. Daraka, who trapped a PC's soul in a gem after torturing him and his only friends for weeks. He then let the PC believe he escaped, but was really letting him out as an experiment. The party eventually went back, which the Necro wanted, and kicked his ass, including his super spooky form of death that emerged when his mortal form was destroyed. Anywho, we fought all kinds of enemies, from beasts to demons to dragons to necromancers in that campaign. Any advice for making a Mad Mage BBEG that is truly unique? And then little in brackets, more world info. Low magic world where elemental magic is divinely bestowed by a nature goddess. I like the idea of introducing a high magic character to shake the world up, though I am excited to see what you might have to say.
Instantly, I have an answer. I have an answer.
As do
I have a great idea. I have a great idea for Con. A super zealot, gone crazy ballistic, celestial.
Ooh, I like that.
Like a totally insane planer or Deva or something along those lines. It fits perfectly into the world because he can go high magic with it, but at the same time, you can still keep it in a minimal low magic setting for mortals.
See, I kind of went a different route, but kind of the same way with you. Think of a genasi from an elemental plane trying to take over the the other four or the other three elements essentially, right? And running to kind of hold domain over this. Think of it like the Avatar gone bad in a way, right?
Yeah, okay.
And this almost militaristic, like from the fire plane or something like that coming through there, but very much on the same thing. Like it's a tirade against normalcy. It's trying to break the mold, trying to, which I think is a mad person kind of thing, right? You know, you want to have more power than the others, and I think that a celestial or something like that would be an awesome sort of thing. Like, I like having characters that have some sort of meaning behind that. So you'd have to kind of do some soul searching as to what the BBEG, why that BBG wants to go do a tirade against the rest of the elementals, and likewise with the celestial.
Yeah, I think this might be sort of piggybacking off of what Peter just said. I think that I forgot what I was going to say. I literally just forgot. I think that BBGs in general, I think the thing that makes them unique, not just Mad Mages, is the why they're doing it. Like, what's their story? That's what makes them unique from each other. Because all the Mad Mages are going to have unlimited power.
Yeah.
So what do they do with that? Why are they doing with that? And that's
Sure.
what makes them unique.
Yeah, I kind of like it's very general answer, and this is the same answer I'd give for I guess any character creation, right? Like for a hero, like let's look at Spider-Man, right? Give him a cause. In this case, great power, great responsibility. Give him a flaw, right? His personal life. For I feel like when you go villain, you have to get a little bit more extreme, especially if like it's a mad villain. So give them an obsession and give them a flaw, right? So obsession being one of 1,000 things that you could feel like it would fit your setting. You can go comedic with it, you can go horror with it, you can go scientific, you can go anyways, but make sure it's an obsession, and that's what their goal is. They're being driven by, and then give them a flaw, because there's characters are boring without flaws. So even if it's like, this is my glaring weakness, I have a nut allergy, or my flaw is I really don't want to be doing this, but I am, right? Like there's 1,000 1,000 different ways, and anybody you go and you ask for, like, what should I do for this, they're just going to project what they have for characters they've made and media that they've absorbed in their life, right? So take something that you like in your life and make it your own. But if you're ever curious for a format, follow that format, right? Give them a cause or an obsession, give them a flaw, and then work from there.
Yeah, and also one just to add on to that, always make them think that they're doing the right thing. Make them think of
they're never wrong.
villain. The villain should see themselves as being the hero of something.
Right.
And that's why, because I know Con, and I know what kind of games he likes to run. I think that, if he wanted to do a standards kind of, and not necessarily standard, but like a conquering type story kind of thing, I think the elemental would be great, because it would shake up the world. You could bring in high magic because it's not necessarily from that world, it's from another plane, and that works. I like the imagery around the insane planar Devlar, or the planar or Deva, just because it's like you could make it low fantasy, very dark grim, but make the villain super clean, super proper.
Yeah.
It's like, instead of it being a cult, you have this legit faith that is very like, and it leans towards zealousy. And building into that in terms of like, well, the BBG has this plan up above, but the rest of the people underneath it all have good intentions. They're clerics, they're priests and monks and things along those lines. So it throws you off entirely, leading up to that big reveal of the planar or Deva gone mad. And I love that kind of ideal, that theme behind it all.
Yeah, and Con, if you're watching this, check out Govira from The Legend of Korra specifically, an earth metal bender that led a tirade against all the other kind of elements there, but not as extra. But like the ideas behind Govira are very very interesting. And like, you got to give him a flaw. and a reason why they think they're doing the best thing. Like
Yeah.
my lich, the crystal lich, was very much like thought I'm taming wild magic in this crystal. It just so happens it turns people insane, kind of thing. But like whatever. And that and that was the whole crux of it. Like I'm taking wild magic and I'm taking it and putting it in a manageable container.
Well, I think I feel like I can swing it back to Dave now.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for your submission, guys. We love to see them. Please keep sending them over. And if you can theme them close to whatever topic we're talking about, that would be fantastic. As I mentioned, maybe a little bit earlier in the podcast, maybe I answered it in the pre-show. Next week, we're going to be talking about the death or murder of Mistra and the destruction of the Weave, the spell plague. We're going to get into the details about that next week. So hopefully you come back for episode 2. But with that said, just want to say thank you for tuning into Cantrip Chronicles. And if you want to keep the magic going with us, make sure to join us on Twitch. We do live before and after shows where we hang out with the community and dive deeper into stories. If you've missed an episode, you can catch up anytime on YouTube. And if you really love what we're doing, you can show some support on our Patreon. Not only will you help us keep the adventure alive, but you'll also get a potential say in the next topic that we're discussing on our next podcast. And lastly, to all the audiophiles out there, don't forget to follow us on Spotify for all of our episodes on the go. And until next time, may your rolls be high and your adventures be epic. And to all the adventurers out there, be careful out there. You can trip.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
What do we do with my cat now?
I don't know. Oh my God, we didn't do our Patreon shout out. We have to edit it in like it happened.
Oh my God.
Okay, I would like to say a huge shout out to our top tier of our Patreon, the Fabled Orchid Warlocks. We have a huge shout out to TC, Kazan, Ornitier, Lewis. Thank you. We got Cookie Mon Steve repping it. We got
Big
Danosaur. Big shout out, Danosaur.
Big shout outs.
J-Rex Gaming, shout out, and Colin Worcester, huge shout out.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys. I know
much love to all of you.
Much love. I know you're
Big
super
love.
excited for the one shot, so see you there.